All right, guys. So we're going to go ahead and jump in and talk about Credit Karma today. Simply because I want us to really know how to read our reports. And Credit Karma is typical because it's free. So I want to, go through what I like to look at, what I like to read, and how it helps me interpret things about a credit report. So I like Credit Karma for two reasons. One, because it shows me frequent changes, meaning I'll know if my strategy is working or if there's something that I may need to tweak, adjust, and redo for my process, right? I also like it because it's easier to read, especially for those who are just getting into the area of understanding credit. It is pretty easy to read. Now, I don't like it for the specific score, and not because it's inaccurate, but because it's different, right? So if you're in the live version, then obviously you know that we're going to be talking about the differences between FICO and Vantage. So no need to, worry just yet that on that, we're going to go over that. If you're catching the replay, then probably you already know the differences between FICO and Vantage. And now you're just kind of checking in to see how to read your, Credit Karma area. So I'm going to walk you through that, and I'm going to walk you through both sections of credit factors and credit report. So when I first log in, sometimes it shows me TransUnion and Equifax, and then of course I have to possibly click on one of the scores to take me to this page, right? So once I get here, and I have two tabs open because I wanted to keep the client's information confidential. They did give me authorization to provide a video on their, using their file. So, hey, but I definitely want to keep their information nice and secure. So I go in and I immediately look at a few things. Hi, credit factors and credit report. That tab is going to be credit report, right? But this gives me an overview to see where I am. I see what my points are, is an increase or a decrease, and I see, boom, my chart so I can see where I've been over the last couple of months. I like to go to this tab so I can see what has changed. I like to know, hey, what has been going on? This helps me understand and interpret my score a little bit better so I can understand where the fluctuation may be coming from, right? Now, as you've learned or are going to learn, you'll see how the Vantage model, which is what Credit Karma use, which is what most free sites use, you'll see that one of the major things that they look at is how long you've had a balance and what is that balance doing. Is it increasing? Is it constantly decreasing? Has it been the same, stagnant for a while? And it'll kind of give you fluctuational points from there, right? But when your balance decreases, of course, you're going to see that in green. When it increases, you see it in red. So this helps you understand, hey, my points went up, my points went down. Why? Right? And you'll know exactly what parts of your strategy you may need to implement or change, right? So I like to go down and I like to see what is going on in this specific section here. I got my payment history, meaning I can tell what percentage have I been paying on time, have I been, slacking, what's going on. A lot of times you see missed payments in this area, but you'll see it like, as you can see here, 35 late payments. And you're like, wait, what? How could this even be? Well, boom, accounts with missed payments, Department of Education, that's student loans, they're going to report to your credit report like 35,000 times, it feels like. Another good section that many people miss is right here where you can actually see how your late payments get calculated and how it affects your score. This is going to be different for every single person. But again, this is where you can kind of go in here and try to understand it a little bit more, right? But this is just an overview. Of course, we'll deep dive more into this later. But this is more so just a nice overview so that you understand the options that were here for you, right? So, but I like this. For example, if you had 120 possible payments on your credit history, but you had three late payments, here's what the calculation would be. 120 minus 3 divided by 120, which of course that would be 117 divided by 120. That gives you 97.5%. You see how they come up with your actual payment history percentage. where you want to stay is close to 100%. Of course, you definitely want to stay as close to 100% as you possibly can, because that is like the key place to be. When lenders are looking at your report, they're going to want to see where you are in that area, right? The next thing is your credit card usage. We want to see how much are you using. So in this area, if you see no data, then guess what? That means you have nothing to report. You need to add credit to your file. If you see it anywhere over 30%, if you see it over 100%, that means you have now maxed out. If you see it over 30%, hey, you're just using your card. You want to make sure that you keep it down as much as possible. Here's where you can see derogatory marks such as collections, tax liens, bankruptcies, any other things that can be considered negative on your report. Credit age, which is how long have you had these accounts, have you had your accounts open? What is the average age of your accounts? That's extremely important because, again, I tell you, don't close out old accounts. If you can keep them open, if you can use them every so often, do so, because the longer your accounts are open, the better it means for your actual file, especially if they're in good standing. Total accounts, this means anything that's opened, anything that's closed, you'll see that there. In hard inquiries, anytime that you have applied for credit, you're going to see that there, right? Pretty simple. Then you can go ahead and click on credit report, and it's going to take you to this tab where you can actually see your report in full. If I was to scroll to the top, I would see information about myself, and I want to always check there first because I want to see, are there any old addresses on there? Are there any additional names on there? Because there's this thing called partial matching, which we'll learn about in the repair section on week 3. Where, you know what? If someone has a name as close as yours, their account can be matched to your report and put in the system. You got to understand, technology matches all of these things. So if there's even a missing letter in your name and someone else has that and they have a negative account, guess what? That account can end up showing up on your report. So like I said, if I was to scroll up, you would see all personal information. You always want to check there to make sure everything is on point. If not, that's when we want to go ahead and get that personal identifier letter off, because we want to make sure that those things are, you only have my first, last name, you have my current address, my current employer, if I even want that on there, and that's it. Then I'm going to go and start working on the negative items on my report, right? Then and only then. But you want to make sure that those things are off of your credit first. Those things are out of the way first, because if not, they will continue to haunt you and keep those partially matched accounts on yours, okay? So you can go here, you can see your auto loan, you can see your credit cards, you can see student loans. It does show you opened and closed accounts, whether or not they're in good standing, if they're at zero closed, or if they still have a balance. Typically things like this that you see in that section where it's like, hey, you still have a balance and it's not within collections, you want to go ahead and start working on getting those things paid off. It's extremely important because you would rather work it out with the company for it, before it goes to actual collections. Okay? And then of course, as you scroll down, you can see hard inquiries and you can see collections and public records. Pretty simple, right? That's how you read your Credit Karma report.